Back in the early 2010s, we were in a very strange period when it came to 3D platformers. Mario's 3D outings more resembled Sonic 3D Blast than Mario 64. Sonic was doing whatever the hell this was, and more major developers were shying away from the genre. This would leave a huge void in the market, with fans that grew up with these games, now becoming adults themselves, longing for a return to the collectathons and adventures of old. I've actually brought this up before all the way back in my Hat in Time review, and I think I'm going to retread some ground with saying these things, but I truly believe without independent developers, people with passion and a deep love for video games and 3D platformers especially, that in turn big developers would not have noticed and made motions themselves to move back to this style of 3D gameplay. Okay, I might be a bit bold to say that without games like a Hat in Time or Snake Pass or MacBat 64, we wouldn't have gotten Mario Odyssey, but it can't be denied just how important these games have been for the industry as a whole. I full-heartedly believe that independent games are what shape the industry as a whole, and the ripples they leave, especially when given a platform, can lead to big, sweeping changes that change the very way we think about this industry. With that said, it has been a hot minute since I've delved into good old itch.io, and since that video back in 2020, a lot's changed. And that biggest change I've seen is that there are so many 3D platformers being worked on, like, wow, look at them. They're all so cool. They're all impressive in their own ways, and it's just amazing to see what people are putting out there. And today, I'm going to go over just a couple of those games, talk about how I feel about them, what I might like to see changed, how the developers are updating us on new information, and get some overall thoughts on these games as they are in their current most available public release. Now, of course, these games, as of now, are all in active development, so I'm not really doing a full review here. This is just like a sampling of stuff that I've either found myself or has been sent my way and I want to talk about. I'm also going to go ahead and break this down to chapters below, as well as into the description to make it a little bit easier to navigate and make sure every game gets its fair shake. I'm going to say this a lot, but it's really cool to be able to see these games at this early point in development. It's rad to see where these games are starting from, and with all of them, I can't wait to see how they form over time. But that's the future, and we're in the now. And Naomi is transitioning to the next scene, and I don't have a smooth way to do so. Pumk and Alley is a game currently under development from Charlie and Louis Batten, the latter of which being of PCP podcast fame, which is how through the grapevine I ended up hearing about this. It claims to be inspired by both Spyro and Jak and Daxter, and you know, I can see it. It's based as a sort of prequel in a sense to a webcomic called Balejape, which I'll also be linking below. But it's been stated that you won't have to have read the comic to understand the game. I gotta say right off the bat that this game has a lot of charm to it. Honestly, it almost reminds me of playing like a PS2 demo disc or something. It really feels right at home in that kind of style. Visually, it's very fun, and it's clear that it doesn't take itself too seriously given one of the main characters is about as basic as you can get, and may I say, incredibly throwable. There's clearly a lot of attention that went into this. Like even right down to the grass singeing when you burn it, it's a nice little touch. This music is also pretty solid. Once again, it really fits its vibe as a PlayStation 2 game in my opinion really well. This fight music in particular is an absolute bop. Pumk and Alley has you mainly playing as Pumk, this cute pumpkin girl who can breathe fire along with having a double jump and a dive, which makes for some pretty tight and addicting platforming. Admittedly, a couple of these jumps did take a couple tries to nail down, but as I got more used to how Pumk moved around and handled, this became a non-issue. And the level design really accounts for this stuff, starting off really safe, before by the end of the level available having a couple areas where you can fall off to your death. Pumk can also pick up some objects, Alley included, and this moveset shows a lot of promise. It's really fun to toss stuff around and to get around, and it made me want to explore all these little nooks and crannies. You also have the ability to swap to Alley at any time as well. Alley can't take damage, but as a trade-off can't jump and moves far slower. With that said, however, Alley also has a camera that can take pictures, which actually save to your hard drives. So, you know, don't go too crazy with the camera unless you want your hard drive filled with Alley selfies. You can also use Alley to get into areas that Pumk cannot. In the demo it shows us these little areas with collectibles and buttons to advance on the level. I will say that I really hope that in the final version this gets explored more actually. It'd be really cool to me to have the camera show like hidden areas with the game showing the image you took right away so you can examine it and figure out like hidden platforms or something. I'd also really like to see these small caves built upon. It'd be really fun to have these puzzles and stuff to solve its alley to get the next area unlocked. Think like almost a Captain Toad kind of style. And then at the end have it just go back over to Pumk right away. If I am to have one big gripe with Alley, however, it's the sound they make when they teleport to keep up with you. It's so loud! Like they teleport with the force of a 2002 Honda Civic with a cheap subwoofer installed. And this would go through this cycle for me. where it started off kind of funny that it was so loud, but then it got really, really annoying. Like, really annoying. And then we came full circle, and now I find it hilarious, so take that how you will. Overall, this demo actually made me really excited to see what else is to come. I loved every bit of it, even though it was really short. And the brief moment of combat at the end was a lot of fun and left me craving more, which is the best thing a demo like this can do. And all in all, it's just this awesome little proof of concept. I do think it could use some more lizards, however. This video brought to you by viewers like you, thank you. Like and sub to Thunderclaw. Man, Project Feline is what I wish a Sonic game could be. It's currently in development by Raymond Cripps, and may I say before I continue, one of the coolest things going into this is just seeing how these games build these communities around them. And this game in particular is a really good example of that, having speedrunning and Discord communities built around it, and that's just really cool to me. It's a fast-paced 3D platformer focused around, well, going fast and doing parkour. It's in an incredibly early alpha state, but there are a few missions to take a look at here, and what is here is super cool. In Project Feline, you play as Gabby, a cat girl who goes fast. Look, the story's still on its way, and this is what I got. There's a polar bear, and I play Final Fantasy XIV, so we all know my stance on cat girls. I'm sold. There are a few different missions available here, ranging from free-running courses to time trials to collecting a bunch of MacGuffins in a set time limit. And all are pretty fun in their own ways. You have to use Gabby's skills to your benefit to really get things down between free running, sliding, wall running, and grinding rails, and it all comes together into this super satisfying playstyle where you build up a lot of speed and go flying all over the place. And it's so fun to keep going back to levels and replaying them and finding new ways to make more and more use of Gabby's skills as you become more skilled as a player. Honestly, for an early alpha, the skeleton here is awesome. I found myself losing a lot of time actually getting footage, and that's always a good sign when the game can do that to me. I can see myself exploring these areas for hours once they're further built up, and it seems like other people have already beaten to it. Like, minus an abundance of test textures in this giant pre-alpha build written at the bottom of the screen, I'd honestly have been mistaken and might have told you guys this was a bit farther along than it actually is. It's really well put together so far. With that said, outside of some just alpha things jank, like this one time I couldn't use the rails right here, there are a few things I would like to suggest going forward. Particularly on a recently added stage focused on collecting items in a time limit, which is a lot of fun. However, I would really like to see the game maybe include some sort of way to indicate where the closest MacGuffin is, just so I could keep the flow going in these sorts of missions in the future. I think that would just do wonders for knowing where you're headed next, and in my opinion, like something like that would really help with the flow of these kinds of levels, which seems to be where the developer wants to take things going forward. The art style here is super cool to me. Now, the developer has stated that the levels themselves will see some amount of change over time in terms of art style, so I'm not really going off that. But Gabby and the other characters here are great. How Gabby moves around and just how buttery the visuals are really awesome. It's so smooth. Ooh, velvety. All in all, I'm actually really glad I stumbled upon Project Feline. Sliv and I were actually talking about an unrelated project while just happening to be browsing itchio, and I was immediately drawn to so much of this game. Its style caught my attention right away, and I'm super hooked on it, and I'm going to be paying really close attention like all these games going forward. I should note at this point that both Project Feline's developer Raymond Cripps and one of Pumk and Alley's developers Louis Batten /hypocrite/give and take are active on YouTube and Twitch, with Project Feline having an active devlog going over his endeavors and ongoing development as the game grows and evolves. I'm going to go ahead and link both channels below so you guys can stay up to date on these projects as they continue in development. It's really cool to get these sorts of insights into these games, and in both cases, there are some interesting videos to check out involving these games and their development and where they're going forward. And their channels are pretty fun in their own rights. Anyway, next game. You know, it's pretty cool how we managed to hit three very distinct types of 3D platformers. We started off with a PS2 era style of gameplay, something more like a Jak and Daxter or Spyro, to a more fast-paced free-running style, what I'd love to see a Sonic game look like, what I would love to see a fast-paced platformer be. And here we are with Billie Bust Up, in my opinion the most traditional of the 3D platformers I ended up covering today. Billie Bust Up is a 3D platformer with a heavy inspiration from Disney musicals. It's being developed by Blueprint Games and is set for a 2024 estimated release after a successful Kickstarter back in late 2020, raising just over £150,000. And in the interest of full transparency, I have backed this game because, like, Damn, look at this, it looks rad. It's set to have multiple chapters featuring music, lots of cool characters, split-screen multiplayer, and a fox is playable, and you can pet the fox, along with different power-ups and other abilities. The demo available through itchio features 2 levels right now. One is just a test level where you can play some music and play around with the game's controls and mechanics. It's clear this isn't representing anything close to a final product or something you'll see in the final game, but it is fun to explore some, and through here I can get really a good feel for how Billie handles. And she handles really well. This smug goat is really easy to control, and wall jumping and bouncing around is a lot of fun. You can use an umbrella to slow your descent in the air along with a double jump and a dive, which leaves a lot of room for creative platforming down the line, which I'm really excited to see taken advantage of down the road. Beyond that, the only other area accessible here is a boss fight with one of the game's antagonists, Fantokyo, a living puppet who has lived his life trapped in a theater. The cutscene here is just a storyboard still, but the boss fight itself is fully intact, and oh boy, I'm a sucker for a good boss fight, so this got me stoked. The fight here is more about a matter of survival rather than a full-on battle. Dodging attacks timed to the beat of the song Fantokyo is singing. Honestly, I'm gonna be real for a moment. One of my biggest concerns when I was backing this game was that music is a very subjective thing, and it did lead to some concerns that if it wasn't done right, this could hurt the game a lot. If, say, a boss like this didn't have the right voice for the job, or if the song wasn't up to stuff, and this concern got to a point where I actually held off listening to this song for a long time. I avoided listening to the song or even playing this demo just because I was that concerned about the music. And with that said, honestly, those fears were not well-founded at all. This fight is great at allaying any fears I had about that going forward, and it actually does a great job showing just how much care is going into the music and how universal it is. It's like a Disney musical. The music is crafted clearly with love. It's thrilling to dodge these attacks. I feel myself getting better and better with each attempt, and I never got sick of hearing the song even though I did die a couple times just getting the hang of everything. This boss actually does a great job of showing just how great the visuals are here too. Seriously, it's hard to believe this is being made by such a small team, and from the trailers that have come since, it looks like it's gotten even more impressive as time has gone on. It's so cool to see this game coming even further along in development, and I really look forward to seeing it when it fully comes out. I really dig this goat. Now with that said, that was just a little sampling of these 3 games. It's so cool to see and experience these projects early on in their development. It's interesting to see the design process that worked, and seeing these worlds get built before our eyes and getting to be a part of that, even if it's just giving these games a shot and spreading them by word of mouth. I'm certain that when these games come out, I'll have a lot of fun playing through each of them in their final forms. Talking about them at length and seeing how the communities these games have helped shape their final releases. itch.io is such a cool website to me because it enables a lot of these games the opportunity to have a platform without any real concern or overhead. And it's why I find myself gravitating more and more to it as time goes on. There's always something interesting to see here. It's never a dull moment. It's not the same old, same old. There is always a new game being worked on every single time I check this site, and there's always something that really piques my interest, and that's super awesome. Like I said, I think the indie game scene defines the industry as a whole, and I look forward to a day when these 3 indie titles in particular get brought up among the best of the best, not just in the indie scene, but in the gaming industry in general. And I truly believe each and every single one of them has that potential, and that's pretty rad. Now, with that all said, if you'll excuse me, I have very important things to do. And by important things, I mean I'm going to go play Backrooms Buff Doge Horror.